Who tried to stop my fishing, so I claimed the lake and barred them all. The lake shimmered under the morning sun, its surface whispering promises of peace. But in the quiet neighborhood of Willow Creek, peace was a rare commodity, especially when Karen ruled the HOA. Ethan Carter had moved to Willow Creek, seeking solace after a grueling divorce. The small lake behind his modest home became his sanctuary, where he'd cast his fishing line, letting the gentle ripples wash away his troubles. His 6-year-old daughter, Lily, loved those mornings, giggling as she held the rod with him, her tiny hands trembling with excitement when they caught a fish. The lake wasn't just water, it was their bond, their escape. But Karen, the HOA president, saw it differently. To her, the lake was a battleground for control, and Ethan's fishing was an act of defiance. It started with a letter, slipped under Ethan's door like a thief in the night. The HOA had fined him $200 for unauthorized use of common property. Fishing, it claimed, violated Rule 17B, a vague clause about disruptive activities. Ethan laughed it off at first. How could casting a line from his own backyard be disruptive? He tossed the letter aside, assuming it was a misunderstanding. But Karen wasn't one for misunderstandings. She was a woman who thrived on power, her perfectly manicured nails gripping the HOA bylaws like a scepter. Neighbors whispered about her reign. She'd fined Mrs. Jenkins for planting tulips instead of roses, banned Mr. Patel's barbecue for excessive smoke, and even threatened to tow a teenager's car for parking an inch over the line. Karen's word was law, and Ethan had just stepped into her crosshairs. The fines kept coming, each one bolder than the last. $300 for littering a single bobber floating on the lake. $500 for disturbing wildlife Lily's squeal when she caught her first base. Ethan tried reasoning with Karen at the next HOA meeting, standing in a stuffy community center filled with folding chairs and nervous neighbors. "I'm just fishing with my daughter," he said, his voice steady but pleading. "It's our property line. The lake's right there." Karen, perched at the head of the table, adjusted her glasses and smirked. "The lake is HOA property. Mr. Carter, you don't get to decide what's allowed." The room fell silent, her authority unchallenged. Ethan left, his jaw tight, the weight of her words sinking in. This wasn't about fishing, it was about control. The conflict escalated like a storm-gathering force. Karen posted no fishing signs around the lake, their stark white letters glaring from every angle. Ethan ignored them, fishing defiantly with Lily, teaching her how to bait a hook while Karen spies nosy neighbors with nothing better to do, snap photos from their windows. Another fine arrived, $750 this time for repeated violations. Ethan's savings, already strained from legal fees, dwindled. He started noticing Karen's car patrolling past his house at odd hours, her eyes scanning his backyard like a hawk. Neighbors who once waved warmly now avoided him, fearing Karen's wrath. Lily began to ask why the mean lady hated their fishing trips. Ethan's heart ached, but he forced a smile. "She just doesn't understand. Sweetheart, we'll keep fishing." The breaking point came on a crisp Saturday morning. Ethan and Lily were at the lake, her laughter echoing as she reeled in a small perch. Karen appeared out of nowhere, flanked by 2 HOA board members, her clipboard clutched like a weapon. "You're done, Mr. Carter," she snapped, her voice dripping with triumph. Before Ethan could respond, she marched onto his dock, his private property, and began yanking his fishing gear from the water. Rods snapped under her heels, their splintered remains tossed into the lake. Lily screamed, clutching Ethan's leg as Karen tore apart their tackle box, hooks and lures scattering like shrapnel. "This is HOA jurisdiction," Karen declared, ignoring Lily's sobs. "You'll pay for this mess, and if you fish again, I'll have the sheriff here." Ethan stood frozen, rage boiling in his chest, but he held back for Lily's sake. He scooped her up, shielding her from Karen's glare, and retreated to the house. That night, as Lily cried herself to sleep, Ethan made a vow Karen would regret this. He spent weeks researching, his dining table buried under property records and legal documents. The lake, he discovered, wasn't fully owned by the HOA. A loophole in the neighborhood's original land deed revealed that a private trust held a significant portion of the lake's title, a remnant from the developer's bankruptcy decades ago. Ethan tracked down the trust manager, a grizzled lawyer named Tom who worked out of a cluttered office downtown. Tom was skeptical at first, but Ethan's persistence and the mention of Karen's tyranny piqued his interest. "You want to buy a lake to spite an HOA?" Tom chuckled, leaning back in his chair. "That's a new one." After negotiations, Ethan drained his savings and took out a loan, securing the lake's title for $1.2 million. It was a reckless move, but the thought of Karen's smug face fueled him. The lake was his. The showdown came at the next HOA meeting, held in the same community center where Karen had first humiliated him. The room buzzed with tension as Ethan walked in, a manila folder tucked under his arm. Karen sat at the head, her usual smirk in place, ready to lecture about mailbox uniformity. Ethan raised his hand, cutting her off. "I own the lake now," he said, his voice calm but ironclad. He slid the deed across the table, watching Karen's face pale as she read it. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "As the owner," Ethan continued, "I'm banning all HOA members from accessing it. No fishing, no boating, no picnics. You're done." Karen's mouth opened, but no words came. For the first time, she was powerless. The fallout was swift and glorious. Ethan erected a fence around the lake's perimeter, topped with private property, no HOA access signs. Neighbors who'd once snitched for Karen now begged for access, their kids whining about missing their summer swims. Ethan stood firm, offering access only to those who'd opposed Karen's reign. At the lake's edge, he built a new dock, where he and Lily fished every weekend, her laughter louder than ever. Karen tried to fight back, filing complaints with the county, but Ethan's deed was ironclad. The sheriff, a fishing enthusiast himself, shrugged off her demands. "Man owns the lake. Ma'am, nothing I can do." Karen's empire crumbled. Neighbors, emboldened by Ethan's stand, began challenging her at meetings, questioning her fines and bylaws. An audit revealed she'd misused HOA funds for personal landscaping, and the board voted her out in disgrace. She sold her house and left Willow Creek, her tail between her legs. Ethan, meanwhile, turned the lake into a community haven for non-HOA families, hosting fishing tournaments and barbecues. Lily's favorite was the annual fish fry, where kids from all over town cast lines and shared stories under the stars. The lake, once a battleground, became a symbol of freedom, its ripples carrying a simple truth sometimes: justice casts the best line.